The fall of the Titaness. The battlefield was silent. Smoke rose from the ruins of war machines, the scent of burnt metal and scorched earth filling the air. The war had lasted for years, but today it had come to a brutal, unforgiving end. General Valthari, the Titaness of the Zirek Dominion, lay motionless on the ground. Her celestial armor, once a shining symbol of power, was now shattered. Cracks ran through its once indestructible surface, glowing faintly as sparks flickered from broken circuits. The mighty warrior who had once stood against entire armies was now nothing more than a defeated soldier, left to die among the ruins. Her breathing was shallow. Pain coursed through her body, but worse than the pain was the humiliation. She had never lost a battle before. Her armor had never failed her, until today. Above her, Dominion warships hovered like silent watchers, their guns aimed at the battlefield, scanning for any remaining threats. The enemy had already assumed victory. They thought she was finished. They were wrong. Valthari's fingers twitched, her strength barely enough to move. She tried to lift herself, but her body refused to obey. The armor that once gave her unstoppable power now felt like a prison of broken metal. Her mind raced. How did this happen? She remembered the final battle. The Dominion forces had launched their strongest attack yet, unleashing weapons designed to break even the strongest warriors. Her armor had held against the first wave, absorbing the energy blasts. But then something went wrong. A new weapon, something human-made. A projectile infused with unknown technology had struck her chest plate, piercing through layers of advanced shielding. Her systems had overloaded. Before she could recover, another strike followed, then another. Her celestial armor, the armor that was meant to be unbreakable, had shattered under human hands. Valthari clenched her jaw, frustration burning in her chest. Humans, the same species the galaxy had underestimated for so long. The same species that was supposed to be weak, primitive, inferior. And yet, they had found a way to bring down her. A soft sound echoed through the wreckage. A low crunch, the sound of boots stepping on broken metal. Someone was approaching. She forced her eyes open, her vision blurry from pain. A shadow moved through the smoke, stepping over debris with a cautious, measured pace. Not a Dominion soldier, not an ally. A human. He was tall, dressed in a worn-out jacket and reinforced boots. His face was smudged with dirt, his brown hair messy, as if he had been surviving in the ruins for days. His sharp eyes scanned the wreckage, his gaze finally landing on her broken form. For a long moment, he said nothing. He just stood there, arms crossed, as if studying a puzzle he didn't know how to solve. Valthari tried to move, but her limbs were still too weak. She could barely lift her arm. If he was an enemy, she was as good as dead. Instead of attacking, the human sighed. "Well," he muttered, crouching beside her. "That's a mess." She blinked, confused. He reached out, tapping the shattered chest plate of her armor. Pieces of metal crumbled under his touch. His expression darkened. "Looks like they really did a number on you," he murmured. Valthari narrowed her eyes, forcing words past her dry throat. "Who are you?" The human smirked. Jack Carter." She struggled to understand his presence. "A human scavenger. Here. What do you want?" she asked weakly. Jack leaned back, looking up at the ruined warships above them. "Not much. Just looking for parts. Seems like the Dominion left behind a gold mine of scrap." His eyes flicked back to her. "Didn't expect to find you, though." Valthari tried to sit up, but pain shot through her body. She gritted her teeth, refusing to show weakness. Jack watched her struggle. Then, after a moment, he let out a long breath. "All right. Looks like you're not gonna die just yet." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Jack rubbed his chin, glancing at the shattered armor. "I mean, you're lucky I found you. Your fancy suit is wrecked, but it's not beyond saving." Her heart skipped a beat. He couldn't be serious. "My armor is lost," she growled. You do not understand its power. Jack chuckled. I understand machines, lady, and I understand broken things. His gaze sharpened. Your war might be over, but your fight doesn't have to be. Valtheri stared at him, her warrior instincts battling against her doubt. You think you can fix my armor? She challenged. Jack grinned, standing up. I don't think. I know. His confidence was infuriating, and yet something inside her stirred. A sliver of hope. Fine, she whispered, barely believing her own words. Then prove it. Jack cracked his knuckles, turning toward the wreckage of abandoned starships surrounding them. All right, he said with a smirk. Let's get to work. A human's promise. The wind howled through the wreckage, carrying the scent of burnt metal and blood. The war had left this battlefield in ruins. Twisted ships, shattered weapons, and bodies of fallen soldiers, both human and alien. Somewhere within this graveyard of war, Jack Carter stood over the broken form of Valtheri, the once mighty Titaness of the Zirek Dominion. Her celestial armor, once a symbol of power, lay in jagged pieces around her. Sparks flickered from shattered plating, exposed wiring hissing with dying energy. The unbreakable had been broken. And yet she lived. Jack crouched beside her, brushing aside a piece of charred metal. His sharp brown eyes studied the damage with a mechanic's precision. He had seen war, seen destruction, seen machines crumble, but never had he encountered this level of technology. The Zirek Dominion had kept their armor designs secret for centuries. If the galaxy knew their greatest warrior's suit had failed, chaos would spread like wildfire. You're lucky, Jack muttered, tapping one of the cracked armor plates. A little more force, and you'd be dust. Valtheri's silver eyes burned with frustration. I do not need your pity, human. Jack grinned. Good, 'cause I'm fresh out of it. He leaned back, stretching his arms as he took in the wreckage of warships surrounding them. This wasn't just a battlefield. It was a graveyard of technology, a place where old weapons and forgotten machines lay waiting for someone like him. He let out a slow breath. This is gonna be fun. Valtheri narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? Jack reached into his jacket, pulling out a small rusted toolkit, the kind a scavenger carried everywhere. He twirled a wrench between his fingers before looking her in the eye. I'm gonna fix your armor. Silence. Valtheri's expression twisted between disbelief and fury. You are a fool. My armor is not just metal. It was forged with Zirek Dominion's greatest technology, crafted by our most brilliant minds. Jack shrugged. And yet, it's lying in pieces at my feet. She clenched her fists, but she couldn't deny the truth. The armor had failed her. And now, here was this human, standing over her, talking like he could fix what an entire empire had spent centuries perfecting. You don't know what you're doing, she said coldly. Jack smirked. Oh, but I do. His fingers traced over the armor's broken edges. I've been fixing things since I was a kid. Starships, plasma rifles, you name it. Machines, they're all the same. He glanced up at her. Your people built this to be strong, but they made one mistake. They didn't build it like a human would. Valtheri scoffed. And what would that change? Jack grinned. Everything. He stood up, scanning the wreckage around them. There was plenty of scrap, enough to build something new. His hands itched for the challenge. His whole life, he had been seen as nothing more than a scavenger, a fixer, a nobody. Now he had a chance to rebuild something the galaxy thought was impossible. Jack turned back to Valtheri. You want to fight again? Then trust me. Her silver eyes locked onto his. Trust, in a human, the very species that had brought her downfall. But she had no other choice. Do what you must, she finally said. Jack grinned. That's the spirit. Rebuilding the Titaness. Jack wasted no time. He moved through the wreckage of the fallen warships, his hands working fast, his mind racing with possibilities. He wasn't just repairing the armor. He was redesigning it. Valtheri watched in silence, her arms weak, but her mind sharp. She had fought wars, commanded armies, but she had never seen a human work like this. Jack's movements were chaotic yet precise, like an artist painting a masterpiece with scraps of metal and circuits. He melted broken alloys together, using pieces from fallen Zurich warships. He ripped out energy cores, testing their charge with old human tools. He was relentless. "You're modifying it," Valtteri observed. Jack didn't look up. "Damn right I am." She frowned. "Why not just restore it?" Jack wiped sweat from his brow. "Because restoring it means making the same mistakes again." He held up a glowing blue energy core, its light casting strange shadows across his face. "Your armor was strong, but it wasn't flexible. It wasn't made to adapt. That's why it broke." Valtteri was silent. No one had ever questioned the celestial armor before. No one had dared. Jack grinned. "But this time, we're gonna fix that." A dangerous upgrade. Hours passed. The sky above them darkened. The Dominion search squads would come soon. Jack knew they had to hurry. Finally, he stepped back, looking at what he had done. The armor was no longer the same. Gone was the traditional design of the Dominion's warriors. In its place stood something new, something deadly. The celestial armor had evolved. Jack had reinforced the plating with human worship alloys, making it lighter yet stronger. He had embedded human nanotech processors, allowing the suit to adjust mid-battle. Most importantly, he had installed something that no Zurich scientist would have ever considered: a human-built fusion core capable of absorbing and redirecting energy. Valtteri slowly stood, her body still aching, but her spirit rekindled. Jack crossed his arms. "Well, what do you think?" She flexed her fingers, feeling the new armor shift around her. It moved differently. It felt alive. "This," she whispered, eyes widening. "This is no longer Zurich armor." Jack grinned. "Nope." She turned to him, her voice softer. "Then what is it?" Jack smirked. "It's human." The war wasn't over yet. Before she could respond, the ground trembled. In the distance, dark shapes appeared on the horizon. Dominion search squads. Jack's smile faded. "Well, looks like we're out of time." Valtteri's fingers tightened into a fist. This time, her armor didn't shatter. This time, she felt unstoppable. She turned to Jack. "We fight together." Jack smirked, picking up a plasma rifle. "Now that's what I like to hear." The war had ended hours ago. But now, thanks to a human's hands, it was about to begin again. The galactic hunt begins. The sky above the battlefield had darkened into an eerie shade of crimson and black. Smoke from the ruined warships still hung thick in the air, twisting like the ghosts of fallen soldiers. Somewhere in the distance, the low hum of engines rumbled, a sound that made Jack's jaw tighten. The Dominion search squads were coming. Jack Carter stood at the edge of the wreckage, his hands gripping the straps of his gear. His heart pounded in his chest, but his face showed nothing but calm focus. He had been in situations like this before, scavenging through war zones, dodging patrols, surviving where others couldn't. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him, Valtteri flexed her fingers, feeling the weight of her rebuilt armor. The old celestial armor had been a symbol of the Zurich Dominion's power, crafted over centuries by their greatest minds. But now, it was something else. Something new. Jack's modifications had changed everything. The armor was lighter, stronger, and faster. The old Dominion technology had been rigid, predictable, built with the belief that strength alone won wars. But Jack had given it a human touch. He had made it adaptable, flexible, designed for survival. She glanced down at him. "They are coming." Jack smirked. "Let him." But inside, he knew they weren't ready for a full-scale fight. Not yet. The hunt begins. The Dominion search squads were ruthless, efficient, and armed to the teeth. Their orders were clear: find Valtteri's body. If she lives, eliminate her. If anyone else is with her, execute them. In the distance, the searchlights of Dominion drones sliced through the darkness, scanning the ruins. Their sleek metallic forms hovered above the wreckage, their scanners glowing a menacing blue. Behind them, the soldiers advanced, clad in heavy exosuits, carrying plasma rifles capable of melting through Starship hulls. They moved with military precision. Their footsteps echoed against the broken steel. The lead officer, Commander Xurak, lowered his visor. His cold, reptilian eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "The traitor fell here," he muttered, motioning his soldiers forward. "Her corpse should be among the wreckage. Move carefully. We don't leave until we confirm the kill." The squad spread out, scanning the debris, weapons raised. What they didn't know was that Valtteri was watching them. And she wasn't alone. The escape plan. Jack and Valtteri crouched behind the husk of a fallen starfighter, hidden in the shadows. Jack's mind raced. He had been in bad situations before, but this was different. They weren't just hiding. They were being hunted. Valtteri studied the enemy movements. Even with her enhanced armor, she knew taking on an entire Dominion strike force would be suicidal. Jack was skilled, but he was still just human. "We cannot fight them directly," she said. "Not yet." Jack nodded. "Yeah, I figured. So what's the plan?" She hesitated. Before today, she would have fought to the death. But Jack had shown her another way. "A ship," she said. "We need a ship." Jack exhaled sharply. "Right, just one problem. Those guys probably control every working ship in this sector." Valtteri smirked. "Then we take one from them." Jack chuckled. "Oh, I like the way you think." She tapped the side of her armor, activating a newly installed HUD interface. A map of the wreckage flickered into view, marking a possible location, an abandoned Dominion transport vessel just beyond the patrols. Jack studied it. "Looks like it's mostly intact. If we can get in and power it up." "We escape," Valtteri finished. Jack grinned. "All right, let's do it." Through the ruins. They moved silently. Valtteri's newly enhanced armor made her movements smoother, almost weightless. Jack, having spent years sneaking through battlefields, was just as quick, weaving through the wreckage like a shadow. But the Dominion was thorough. Drones hovered overhead, their scanners sweeping back and forth. One mistake, one wrong move, and they would be caught. Jack pressed himself against a fallen ship, watching as a group of soldiers passed just a few feet away. His grip tightened on the small blaster pistol he had salvaged earlier. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. Valtteri was tense beside him, ready to strike if needed. Then, a sound. One of the soldiers stopped, his helmet tilted. Had he heard them? Jack's breath caught in his throat. The soldier turned, his rifle raised. Valtteri tensed. If he saw them, they were dead. The soldier's visor glowed for a brief moment, scanning. Then, just as suddenly, he turned away. Jack let out a slow, controlled breath. That was too close. They continued moving, inching their way toward the ship, reaching the transport ship. Finally, they reached it. The Dominion transport vessel sat partially buried under rubble, its engines long since dead. But Jack saw potential. "All right," he whispered, examining the side panel. "Looks like the power core is still intact. I can jump-start it." Valtteri kept watch. "Be quick." Jack worked fast. His fingers danced across the controls, overriding security locks, rewiring power circuits. The ship rumbled as power flickered to life. Valtteri's eyes narrowed. "Jack." The engines roared to life. And then, alarms blared. The Dominion soldiers turned. Commander Xurak's visor snapped up. "They're alive. Stop them." Spotlights swung toward the ship. Soldiers charged forward. Jack gritted his teeth. "We gotta move. Now." Valtteri leaped onto the ramp, her armor's new servos activating, sending her soaring through the air. Jack followed, sliding into the pilot's seat. Blaster fire rained down on them as the Dominion closed in. "Hang on," Jack yelled. The ship lurched upward, engines struggling, then finally kicking into full power. They shot into the sky just as explosions ripped through the battlefield below. The war wasn't over. As the ship broke through the atmosphere, Jack glanced at Valkyrie. She wasn't just a warrior anymore. She was a survivor, a fighter. And now she was a legend reborn. Jack smirked. "Told ya I could fix things." Valkyrie looked at him, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. "Yes," she said softly, "you did. But the Dominion wouldn't let them escape so easily." The hunt had only just begun. Escape under fire. The transport ship trembled as it soared through the war-torn sky, its engines struggling against the weight of debris still clinging to its hull. Inside the cockpit, Jack Carter's hands flew across the controls, fingers working at lightning speed to override Dominion security locks. Come on," he muttered through gritted teeth. The Dominion ships were already on their tail, moving fast. Valkyrie, the once invincible Titaness, stood beside him, her newly rebuilt celestial armor gleaming under the flickering cockpit lights. Her silver eyes burned with determination. She was no longer just a warrior. She was a warrior rebuilt. But even she knew they were in trouble. Through the ship's viewport, the sky was filled with Dominion warships, sleek and deadly, their plasma cannons already locking onto them. The chase had begun the moment Jack jump-started the abandoned transport, but the Dominion wasn't playing around anymore. A voice crackled through the ship's damaged comms. "You cannot escape." Valkyrie clenched her fists. She knew that voice. Commander Xirak. He had been hunting her since the moment her armor shattered. Jack scoffed, flipping a few switches. "Oh yeah. Watch me." The ship lurched forward, the old thrusters roaring as Jack pushed them past their limit. Flames burst from the engines as the transport dove between wrecked warships, weaving through the ruins of fallen Dominion vessels. Behind them, the pursuing ships opened fire. Bright blue energy bolts streaked through the sky, barely missing their hull. One shot clipped their wing, shaking the entire ship violently. Jack cursed. That was a warning shot. Next one's gonna turn us into space dust. Valkyrie's voice was calm. "Then we fight back." Jack snorted. "Lady, I don't know if you noticed, but this ain't a warship." She turned her piercing gaze on him. "Then make it one." Jack blinked, then grinned. "You know what? I like the way you think. The human touch." Jack flipped open a maintenance panel on the console, exposing wires and circuit boards underneath. He didn't need a weapon system. He could build one. He pulled out a power conduit from the ship's core, rerouting energy to the external thrusters. With a few quick rewires and a spark of human ingenuity, he repurposed the exhaust vents into something far deadlier. Jack's fingers danced over the controls. "All right, let's see if this works." Valkyrie watched as the ship's rear thrusters suddenly changed direction, re-aiming toward their pursuers. Jack smirked. Time for a little surprise. He slammed the trigger. Boom! A massive shockwave erupted from their ship as pure ionized exhaust blasted toward the Dominion fighters behind them. The lead ship was caught in the blast, its energy shields overloading instantly. It spiraled out of control before smashing into a wrecked battleship. The Dominion comms erupted into chaos. What was that? They turned their thrusters into a weapon. Commander Xirak's cold voice cut through the noise. "They won't escape. Deploy the interceptors." Valkyrie turned to Jack. "They're bringing in their best pilots." Jack grinned. "Good. I love a challenge." Dogfight in the wreckage. The sky exploded with motion as 6 sleek Dominion interceptors shot toward them. These weren't regular fighters. These were elite ships, faster than anything Jack had ever seen. And they were gaining on them. Jack gripped the controls, rolling the transport into a dizzying spiral to avoid the first barrage of fire. Valkyrie's eyes flickered toward the ship's weapon panel. "Do we have anything left?" Jack exhaled. "Working on it." He pushed the ship harder, diving into the floating wreckage of a fallen Dominion dreadnought. The broken husk of the massive ship provided temporary cover, but the interceptors followed. Jack smirked. "All right, you want to play rough. Let's play rough." He cut the engines. Valthyri's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" Jack simply grinned. "Newton's first law, sweetheart." The ship suddenly dropped as gravity and momentum took over, sending them into a freefall through the wreckage. The Dominion fighters, expecting them to keep flying, overshot their target, and in that brief moment of confusion, Jack reignited the engines. Boom! The ship blasted upward at full speed, ripping through the sky, leaving the interceptors scrambling to adjust. Valthyri grinned. "Impressive." Jack winked. "Stick with me, and you might just survive." But the battle wasn't over yet. The final barrier. Ahead of them, the Dominion blockade loomed, a massive warship, nearly the size of a small moon, stationed at the edge of the atmosphere. Its cannons were already charging. Jack cursed under his breath. "Yeah, that's not good." Valthyri's voice was steady. "We break through." Jack shot her a look. "Oh, sure. And how do you want to do that?" "Politely ask them to move." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Trust me." For some reason, he did. Jack angled the ship downward, pushing it into the upper atmosphere. The warship's cannons fired, but Jack's quick maneuvers kept them just out of range. Valthyri stepped toward the cargo bay. "Keep flying." Jack frowned. "What are you?" She turned her head slightly. "Just don't stop moving." Jack had no idea what she was planning, but he followed orders. Then, Valthyri leaped from the ship. Jack's eyes widened. "Oh, what the hell?" She soared through the air, her newly upgraded armor glowing with energy. She landed directly on the warship's main cannon, using Jack's modifications to absorb and redirect the energy blast. The cannon overloaded, sparking and exploding from within. The Dominion warship's entire defense grid short-circuited. Jack, still flying toward it at full speed, saw the opportunity. "Oh, I love this plan." He pushed the engines to maximum, flying through the chaos of explosions, weaving between the wreckage as the warship collapsed in on itself. At the last second, Valthyri shot back toward the ship, landing on the hull. She grabbed onto the wing, pulling herself inside the airlock just as they burst through the blockade. The Dominion forces fell behind them. They were free. The legend reborn. Jack exhaled sharply, his hands shaking from the adrenaline. He turned to Valthyri, who stood tall, her armor glowing with residual energy. "You," he said, breathless, "are absolutely insane." She smirked. "You rebuilt my armor. The least I could do is put it to good use." Jack chuckled, shaking his head. Below them, the planet's burning battlefield faded away as they entered open space. For the first time since the war started, Valthyri was free. But they both knew this fight wasn't over yet. Jack leaned back in his chair, smiling. "All right, warrior queen. Where to next?" The ultimate showdown. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, a sea of stars and darkness. Jack Carter sat in the pilot's chair of the barely functioning Dominion transport ship, fingers tense on the controls, his mind racing. His heart was still pounding from their death-defying escape through the blockade. Beside him, Valthyri stood tall, her rebuilt celestial armor pulsing with energy. She had faced certain death, been left broken on the battlefield. But now she was something more. But their fight wasn't over. Not yet. Behind them, the remains of the Dominion warship crumbled, its defense systems burned out, explosions blooming like dying stars in the vacuum. The chase had ended, or so Jack thought. A new sound filled the cockpit, a deep mechanical hum, a pulse of energy. Valthyri's silver eyes narrowed. "Something is coming." Jack's stomach twisted. He didn't like the way she said that. A blinding red light erupted behind them, illuminating the ship's interior like a second sun. Jack's sensors went crazy, flashing red warnings across the screen. A single word appeared on the display. Titan Class Unit DETCTED. Jack's hands tightened on the controls. Oh hell. Valtteri stepped forward. Her gaze locked onto the viewport. Her fingers clenched into fists as she recognized what was coming. The Colossus-class war mech. It emerged from the shadows, a massive, towering machine, easily 20 times the size of their small ship. Its dark metal plating gleamed under the starlight, covered in ancient Zurich runes, pulsing with blue energy. It wasn't just a ship. It was a walking war machine, capable of tearing apart entire fleets. Jack exhaled sharply. That is a very big problem. Valtteri's voice was ice. This is their greatest weapon. Jack shot her a look. Great, so how do we kill it? Valtteri stared at the mechanical titan as its cannon arms began to glow, preparing to fire. She stepped forward, her armor humming with power. We don't kill it, she said. Jack blinked. Excuse me. She turned her gaze toward him, eyes burning like silver flames. We destroy it. Titan versus Titan. The war mech raised its arms, twin plasma cannons glowing with energy, each one capable of melting through battleships in seconds. Jack jerked the controls, sending their ship into a hard spin just as twin energy blasts ripped through space where they had been a moment before. The explosion shook their hull, warning alarms screaming through the cockpit. We can't dodge that forever, Jack shouted. Valtteri didn't answer. She was already moving toward the cargo bay. Jack glanced over his shoulder. What are you doing? She didn't slow down. Preparing for war. Jack cursed. Oh, that's not ominous at all. He struggled to keep the ship moving as the war mech's massive limbs shifted, rocketing forward through space with unnatural speed. It wasn't just a machine. It was alive, its AI core calculating every movement with deadly precision. Jack's ship was nothing compared to this thing. We need a plan, Jack yelled. Valtteri's voice came through the comms. You fly. I fight. Jack's jaw clenched. Yeah. Okay, but how? Then, the cargo doors opened. Jack barely had time to react before Valtteri leaped into the void of space, her new armor glowing with Jack's modifications. She soared through the dark like a falling star. Jack watched, stunned, as she landed directly onto the war mech's chest, her impact shaking the massive machine. She didn't hesitate. She plunged her armored fist into its plating, her new fusion core armor burning with raw energy. Jack's mouth went dry. Holy hell. The Titaness strikes back. The war mech reacted instantly, swinging a massive metal arm toward Valtteri. She dodged, using her suit's enhanced thrusters to flip through zero gravity. She landed on its shoulder and unleashed a devastating energy blast, straight into its neural core. The war mech shuddered, its entire frame trembling. Jack, still struggling with the ship, saw the damage she was causing. That's it. Aim for the core. Valtteri didn't need to be told twice. She tore through the mech's armor, breaking apart its outer shielding with brutal efficiency. But the mech fought back. It activated its energy barriers, pushing Valtteri back with a powerful shockwave. She spun midair, slamming into the mech's chest. Hard. Jack's heart dropped. Veil. She gritted her teeth, shaking off the impact. Her new armor had absorbed most of the damage. But the war mech was adapting. Jack realized it was learning her attacks. They needed a new strategy. And then it hit him. The fusion core. Jack slammed the comms. Veil, listen to me. Your armor. I installed a human fusion core. It's unstable. If you overload it, you can channel that energy into a single final strike. Valtteri didn't hesitate. Understood. She landed on the mech's back, grabbing onto its exposed power conduits. Jack watched in awe as she began absorbing the energy directly into her suit. The fusion core roared to life, its human technology mixing with the ancient Zurich power, creating something never seen before. Jack's sensors went crazy. Well, that's a lot of energy. Her voice was calm. That is the point. She lifted her arms, and for a moment, everything went silent. Then, boom! She unleashed the energy in a single blinding explosion. The war mech froze, its systems failing all at once. Jack's sensors read critical damage DTKTED. Valtteri dove from the mech, using the last of her thruster power to propel herself back toward the ship. Jack saw his moment. He fired the engines, blasting forward just as the mech's core collapsed in on itself. The war machine imploded, sending shockwaves through space, its once unstoppable power reduced to burning debris. Jack caught Valtteri in midair, pulling her into the ship just before the wreckage vanished into the void. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jack let out a breathless laugh. "You are absolutely insane." Valtteri smirked, her armor smoking from the battle. "That is why I am still alive." Jack grinned. "Dan right." The war was far from over. But for the first time, the galaxy had seen what a human and a Titaness could do. The return of the Titaness. The stars flickered like dying embers, the wreckage of the destroyed Colossus-class war mech drifting in the void. What had once been the Dominion's greatest weapon was now nothing more than shattered debris, its cracked plating and broken circuits floating in the vast emptiness of space. And in the middle of it all, Valtteri stood victorious. Her celestial armor, now rebuilt and enhanced by human hands, still crackled with residual energy from the fusion core overload. Her body ached from the battle, but she was alive. She had won. Jack Carter, seated in the pilot's chair of their hacked Dominion transport ship, let out a long breath and shook his head. "You know, I've seen a lot of crazy things in my life, but that..." He gestured at the remains of the destroyed war mech. "That was next level." Valtteri turned to him, her silver eyes glowing faintly from the energy coursing through her armor. "It was necessary." Jack let out a low chuckle. "Yeah. Well, remind me never to piss you off." The victory should have felt sweeter. They had destroyed the Dominion's ultimate weapon, escaped certain death, and proven that Valtteri was not broken. She was reborn. But the war wasn't over yet. Jack's gaze drifted toward the ship's damaged control panel, flashing with red warnings. Hull integrity was low, power reserves were draining fast, and their escape route was far from clear. "All right, Warrior Queen," Jack muttered, scanning the sensors. "We might have won that round, but we're still not out of the fire yet. Where to next?" Valtteri didn't answer immediately. She walked toward the viewport, staring at the vast stretch of space ahead. Her expression was unreadable, her thoughts locked behind a warrior's discipline. Jack sighed. "You're thinking big picture, aren't you?" She turned her head slightly. This battle was not just for survival. It was a message. Jack raised an eyebrow. "A message?" Valtteri's fists clenched at her sides. "The Dominion believed me to be dead. My people assumed their Titaness had fallen, and their war machine was their final answer to prove it." Her voice grew cold. "Now they will learn the truth. I am still here." Jack smirked. "Yeah, I think they got that memo loud and clear." Her eyes met his, a silent challenge in them. "And now we take the fight to them." Jack blinked. Hold on. You mean like right now?" "Because I don't know if you noticed, but our ship is barely holding together. We're running on fumes. And oh yeah, we just blew up a Dominion superweapon." He threw up his hands. "Which means every fleet in the sector is probably looking for us." Valtteri tilted her head. "Then we do not run." Jack let out a disbelieving laugh. "You are actually serious?" Valtteri's expression was deadly calm. "We must strike before they recover, before they can replace the war machine, before they rewrite history and twist this into a false victory for themselves." Jack stared at her, then exhaled. "All right, say I'm crazy enough to agree with you. Say we don't run. What exactly is the plan? Because, in case you forgot, we're just two people." Valtteri stepped forward. "We are more than that." Jack crossed his arms. Oh yeah, enlighten me. She reached into her armor, pressing the hidden command into the wrist panel. A holographic map flickered to life between them, a detailed layout of Zurich-controlled space. But Jack wasn't looking at the stars. He was looking at the thousands of blinking signals lighting up across the map. His breath caught. What? What is this? Valtheri's gaze was fierce. They are the Forgotten. Jack frowned. Explain. She gestured at the signals. These are warriors, soldiers, rebels, those who were cast aside when the Dominion deemed them unworthy. Some were exiled. Some were abandoned in losing battles. Others simply refused to fight under false rule. Jack's mind began to piece it together. Wait, you're saying there are survivors? Valtheri nodded. More than that, there are those who still believe in the real fight. And now, they will see that the Titanus has returned. Jack whistled low. Okay, so we're building an army. Valtheri's smirk was small, but deadly. Yes. Jack leaned back, rubbing his hands together. You know, if you had just led with, "We're gonna overthrow the Dominion with a bunch of forgotten warriors and a rebuilt Titanus," I might have signed up sooner. Valtheri raised an eyebrow. You were already committed the moment you rebuilt my armor. Jack smirked. Fair point. The holographic map zoomed in on a single point, a desolate, abandoned Zurich war station, floating on the edge of a dead system. Jack frowned. What's this? Valtheri's voice was steady. The first place we must go. There is something there we need. Jack sighed, already knowing he was in too deep to back out. And let me guess, it's gonna be crawling with Dominion patrols, right? Valtheri nodded. Jack exhaled through his teeth. Yeah, of course. He turned back to the ship's failing controls, shaking his head with a grin. All right, warrior queen. Set course for danger, I guess. Valtheri didn't hesitate. Course locked. Jack shot her a look. You didn't even let me pretend to hesitate. She tilted her head. I knew you would agree. Jack chuckled. Yeah. Let's just hope I don't regret it. As the ship lurched forward, heading toward their next battle, Jack looked out at the empty void ahead. A war was coming. And this time, it wasn't just the Dominion's fight anymore. This time, humanity was in the game. A war reignited. The ship trembled as it broke through the dark abyss of space, its engines sputtering from battle damage. Jack Carter leaned forward in the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing over the controls, forcing the failing transport to keep going. The navigation screen flickered with errors and warnings, but the course remained locked. They were heading straight toward the war station of Zurich exiles, the first step in building the army Valtheri had promised. Jack glanced over his shoulder at the warrior standing beside him. Valtheri, the Titanus of the Zurich Dominion, was no longer a fallen legend. Her armor, reforged by human hands, glowed with newfound power. She had survived her downfall, crushed the Dominion's ultimate war machine, and now she was on the brink of changing the war forever. But the question remained, would the Forgotten Warriors answer her call? Jack sighed. All right, we've come this far. You really think they'll listen? Valtheri didn't hesitate. They will. Jack smirked. Oh, so you're just that convincing, huh? She turned her gaze toward him, her silver eyes sharp with certainty. I am proof that the Dominion is not invincible. Jack exhaled, leaning back in his seat. Yeah, fair point. The ship's alarms blared, warning of incoming vessels. Jack's grip on the controls tightened. Looks like we got company. Valtheri stepped forward, scanning the incoming signals. Not Dominion ships. These are different. Jack raised an eyebrow. Different how? A deep voice crackled through the ship's comms. Unknown vessel. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately, or be destroyed. Jack let out a low whistle. Friendly bunch. Valtheri stepped forward, pressing a command on the control panel. Her voice was strong, unwavering. This is General Valtheri of the Zurek Dominion. Silence. Then the voice returned, shaken, uncertain. Impossible. The Titaness is dead. Jack smirked. Well, about that. Valtheri's eyes burned with fierce determination. I live, and I bring war against those who abandoned us. A long pause. Then, another voice broke through. If you are truly Valtheri, then prove it. Jack groaned. Oh great, another test. But Valtheri didn't hesitate. She stepped toward the viewport, raising one gauntleted fist. The glowing Zurek runes on her armor pulsed with power, the very same energy that once led her people to victory. She spoke, her voice reverberating through the comms, not just as a warrior, but as a leader of the Forsaken. I was cast aside, betrayed, left for dead. The Dominion crushed my armor, but they did not crush me. They created a new enemy, and I will not stop until the false empire falls. Silence followed. Then, slowly, the incoming ships lowered their weapons. The voice returned, this time not with hostility, but with something else. Respect. The Titaness returns. Jack blinked. Wait. That worked. Valtheri turned to him. Did you doubt me? Jack threw up his hands. Not at all. I just thought maybe we'd have to, shoot our way in. A deep rumbling laugh came through the comms. No need. We have waited for this day. The Dominion abandoned us, but we never forgot our true leader. Jack's brows raised. Oh well, this just got interesting. The Exile Fleet, a collection of old battered Zurek warships, opened a pathway, guiding them toward the hidden war station. Jack exhaled. All right, warrior queen. Looks like we got ourselves an army. Valtheri nodded. The first of many. The gathering storm. The war station came into view, a colossal structure, hidden within the shattered remains of a destroyed moon. It was old, battle-scarred, its hull covered in marks of past wars, but it still stood. Inside the hangar, hundreds of Zurek warriors waited, their armor mismatched, their weapons salvaged from past battles. These were not the disciplined, pristine soldiers of the Dominion. These were survivors, fighters, rebels. As Jack and Valtheri stepped onto the hangar deck, the warriors whispered among themselves. Then, one by one, they knelt before her. Jack's eyes widened. Well, didn't see that coming. One of the warriors, a massive, scared Zurek general, stepped forward. His deep voice echoed through the hangar. Titaness, we believed you lost. Valtheri's expression was unreadable. You fought without me. The general nodded. We survived. But survival is not victory. The Dominion grows stronger each day. We are scattered, leaderless. Valtheri stepped forward. No longer. She scanned the room, looking at each and every soldier who had been left behind, forgotten by the Dominion. The Dominion betrayed us all. It cast me aside. It cast you aside. But we are not broken. And we will not be silent. A murmur ran through the crowd. She raised her fist. We will rise again. A roar erupted from the gathered warriors. Weapons were raised. Battle cries echoed through the chamber. The rebellion had begun. Jack grinned. Well, Dan, you really are good at this. Valtheri turned to him. You rebuilt my armor. Now together, we rebuild an army. Jack smirked. Yeah, but let's just hope we live long enough to see it through. The hangar buzzed with energy, the spark of a new war igniting in the hearts of the exiled warriors. The Titaness had returned. And now, the Dominion would burn.